Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Special Needs Community live TV show. This is episode number 6. Now, before we start, we were supposed to have exceptional educator Natalie Green with us today, but unfortunately, things have happened. Things go wrong in life. She's had a bit of a traumatic event and is unable to join us at the last minute today. So I'm your host, Bridgetti Limbanda. I am a Global Goodwill Ambassador. I'm a live stream host and a live stream producer, and I help brands and networks and social good communities create great live streaming experiences. And my co-host is Mary Elizabeth Jackson. Mary is an award-winning author of the Poolicious children's book series, and she's got 3 children, and she's also a special needs and disabilities advocate, and she lives in the USA, and I'm Cape Town, South Africa. And the one thing that we both enjoy about live streaming is that it has connected us, and it connects us with millions of people around the world from all over. So welcome to the show, Mary.
Hi, Bridgetti. How are you doing today?
I'm okay. So, everyone, just to fill you in, Mary and I were just having a conversation offline before we came on air today, and we were talking about how when in life things happen, things change. Like, for example, our guest today couldn't be on the show at the last minute, but we had the show scheduled, and so we had to go live. Um, and sometimes we have to do things on the fly. And I see Gospel is there, and I'm going to say hello to Gospel and hello to Stephen. Thank you for joining us. So
Mm,
things sometimes happen at the last minute, and we were saying that in life in general, things happen unplanned, and when you have a situation in your family where you have a special needs person, things like things can go wrong, things can go south very, very quickly,
mm,
unexpectedly. And we were saying how sometimes you have to make tough decisions, and even if it's not a special needs situation. I'm going to talk about my dad, for example. My dad um, was wheelchair bound for a long time because he had issues with his spine, and
mm,
then he had a stroke last year, and along with the stroke, he had aspiration pneumonia.
mm.
And we thought we were going to lose him to the pneumonia. And so while they were trying to deal with that, they didn't take care of the effects of the stroke. And they only actually assessed what had happened to him 2 weeks later. And by the time they got to that, his muscles had already wasted.
Mm.
And what they simply did then was they told us that there's nothing they can do, and we have to take him home and care for him. And this is not a unique situation to us. There's so many people that find themselves in this situation where you have someone that you love, someone that you care about. The person has a stroke, or they have a heart attack, or whatever it is that happens to them. Or the person may have had cancer. It really doesn't matter what the situation was. But what I do take issue with is that the hospitals will simply say to the family, who in 99% of the cases are not medical personnel, who didn't have any kind of training, and they simply say to you, well, there's nothing we can do. It's like they just literally throw you to the dogs and say, well, it's now your problem. You take care of your family member. So you literally go from having a spouse or a child or a husband or a wife to having a relationship with that person, turning that into a patient, because
Mm.
it's now no longer a mom or a dad or a brother or a sister or a child or whatever. It's a patient that you are now solely responsible for, um, and that you have to take care of.
Yeah, it's true.
And you're not prepared for it. So you literally feel like, um, you've been thrown or bombarded with a ton of bricks. And unfortunately, the system isn't very friendly, because it's not that, when something happens, you can't pick up the phone and say, hey, doctor, this is the situation. You've got to wait until the next day or the next day, until whenever you can get hold of the doctor, or when they call you back. So it really isn't great. And you've had a similar experience with your dad, right? Your dad's also not in a great position, and things also have changed very quickly. That sometimes things change very rapidly. My dad's decline was over a good couple of months. I lost my dad in December. And to be honest, I haven't even dealt with losing my dad yet. I can't. I'm not ready yet.
I know. And it may take you years. When my middle daughter when I was pregnant with her, actually, I was just talking about this last night. So my best friend from childhood, from age 3, her mom had kidney cancer and was doing very, very well. And they had, she was coming about and everything. And then all of a sudden she took a turn, and they called me. And so my mother was here, actually, and we drove down. I was 8 months pregnant, and I just told the doctor, I have to go. I have to go see I have to see this woman. She was like a mother to me. And so for them, it turned very quickly. We were able to get there. She was already in a hospice bed in her home. And we were there the last day that she spoke. And it was, and my point here is my girlfriend from childhood, that was 15 plus years ago. And she still has not gotten over it, the loss of her mother. So I don't think, no one's ever prepared for, I don't know if I can talk about this today. No one's prepared for this ever. And even my dad, hospice is now with him and making all those plans to go and be there at this point. But even when you've had somebody who, my dad's had his disease for 7, 8, 9, years. I think 9 years it started, and it's been 7 years. He's lasted a lot longer than what's intended, or even I think in the medical books, for somebody with all that he has for his brain, frontal lobe dementia, Parkinson's, and supranuclear palsy. And it is, I even though this progression has happened gradually over the years, it's like now it's here, and the progression's gotten very fast. Now at this point, he's ready to transition. But for the rest of us, I still don't think that makes it any easier at all to ever lose somebody. Just like getting that call, knowing the hospice has been called in, we have arrangements to make, everybody's got to get down there, kind of thing. I don't know. It still doesn't make it easier. I think I've been crying for 4 or 5 days now, and it doesn't make it go away. And yet life still happens. I have younger children, so I still have to take care of them, and we still have to go do this and this and this. And so it's not where I've even had the time to sit and just feel it. So, but there's that about us that wants to go, I don't want to sit here and feel this. I want to move forward. I want to go do something else. I want to clean the closet out. It's better than sitting and crying, or my underwear drawer, you know what I mean? Or my socks. Let's get rid of all the socks, So, but we really do, it's important for us to take those moments, and however long it takes for us to feel whatever it is that we feel. Like my stepmother said to me the other day, she said, I don't even know how to act. And I'm thinking, I don't either. I'm not even sure. Am I supposed to be happy, sad? Do you carry on? Do you act like things are normal? I'm a child who's a survivor in life of my parents' divorce, and all in 1 year. My parents divorced, my grandparents died. And I think, you become a survivor of certain things in life. And so for me, I've always been able to, hey, everything's great. Everything's good. Because as a child, that was the only thing that helped me to keep going, was to make believe almost that everything was okay. Or I got to be tough, and I got to be strong, and I got to carry on. I mean, my husband had cancer 11 years ago, and our girls were very young, and I never changed anything in the house. I never changed anything through the surgery, recovery, we kept going as if everything was normal. And I did it for our children so that they would feel safe. And I think that I did that because of how my parents divorcing and my grandparents dying made me not feel safe as a child. Like your whole life is in upheaval, so I think we do those things to ourselves, Bridgetti. My point is, I think we keep so that we can feel like, okay, everything's normal. Otherwise, it's scary, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I have, over the years, I have been through the process of dying with many people that I've cared about,
Yeah.
My mom-in-law, I loved her very much. I loved her as if she was my biological mom. I had a very close relationship with her, and she had cancer, and I took care of her, and I was with her. I was at her side when she died. I had an uncle. He died at my side, and many others. Too many, countless people in my life that I had the privilege to be at their side when they passed, and so I have somehow, I don't know if I should call it a gift, but I somehow have this ability to disassociate myself from what's happening, and I take care of the necessary stuff. So I will step in, I will guide the immediate family, through the process. With my dad, for example, I was hands-on to the extent that I could be, because my back is at the point where I cannot physically do things, and my dad was completely paralyzed. He only had the use of one hand, and so we needed to do absolutely everything for him. And the only difficult part for me was, I couldn't lift him because that would hurt my back. But I was there to oversee and be present, and it was tough, And I know my brother often said to me, "How do you do it?" And I said to him, I'm on autopilot. I don't even think. I don't even think. Even the last
you do what's necessary. You jump in and you do what's necessary, which is kind of where I'm at this, what do I need to do to get where I need to get things done, and not get caught up in the emotional part of it, all of it. And that's the emotional part is happening today for me. So, but we're not perfect, but yeah, we do have to stay detached, because sometimes there are other people who need to fall apart, and you need to stay strong for them so that they can fall apart, and then you can take your turn later.
That is 100% on the button, because I was reading someone else's story about it as well, and she'd also lost her dad. In fact, I went to see my physician the other day, and she was relating that she lost her dad in March this year as well, and she was relating how she has also not had the time to grieve for her dad, because she's concerned about her mum and other things that need to take place. And so someone, I heard the phrase on LinkedIn the other day, a lady was saying she's delayed her grief. So the process of delaying your grief. And I thought, that's actually a thing. I didn't realize it was a thing, because I've done that so many times. I've allowed other people that to me needed to grieve before me. I felt that was kind of more important, allow them to grieve, and I'll grieve later, when it's more convenient. And it's funny how that even happens, how that's even possible. To me, that speaks to the power of the mind, how strong your mind is, that you can actually condition yourself to delay grief. How is that?
Well, it is. I think it's also a survivor mechanism that we were equipped with, because think about where we came from on this planet, the very beginning. Tragedies and things of nature and life were a lot different than they are for us now. But our ancestors had to do those things, right? Because there were very dark times in the world. Not that there is not today. But what if a person had no shelter and they lost the entire village, but they had to carry on to grow that group of people again. They would have had to delay their group. They would have had to go into survival mode. Okay, we do A, B, C, and D, and that's what we do for today, and that's, I think, I don't know that it works for everybody, but I think it's one of those things that might be built into our system to be able to survive. Because if everyone's falling apart, there might not be a survival of a species, right? Everybody just stops.
But here's the thing also, not everyone has the ability to do that.
Right.
There are some people that simply will fall apart and they can't pick themselves up.
Like my girlfriend.
Yeah. And that's okay too, and I think the thing that's important for me is that, grief and grieving is a very personal and individual thing. Everyone grieves in a different way, and there's no right and there's no wrong way of doing it. However you deal with it is okay. And there's no expiry date on grief. I often hear people saying, well, hey, it's 6 months now, put yourself together, or it's a year now, it's 2 years now, it's 5 years now. There's no expiration date on how you are entitled to feel when you are grieving.
And I think that's said to people who just give up on life and they go into a dark room and they can't even function. After a while, we do need to go into someone like that and say, okay, you've got to get up and start living again, because this is what the people that love you want you to do, and the person who left and is no longer here would want you to do. They would not want you to sit here and waste yourself away in life when you have so many things to offer in life and so much to live for still. So I think there are those cases that we do have to save those words for. And then there are others of us who, okay, so today you're going to sit in the middle of the grocery store and cry because you picked up the beans and it reminded you of something in your childhood. I mean, you can have those experiences as well. And you may just need to cry through that, the checkout and the groceries. You just need to have your moment. You're not worried about what anybody else thinks about you. We want to ask for unspoken prayer for just a really beautiful family today who had to make some tough decisions about their child. And, I think letting somebody go is never easy at all. I know it's not. And so, they need strength today. They need strength for a long time down the road. But you just need strength. I don't know. There are no words right now I can think of that would be really appropriate for this family and anybody else out there who's having to make some tough decisions. When you have a child with special needs, and if their disabilities and special needs are pretty significant, there are those families that have to make those tough decisions sometimes about what's best for their child in a situation if they're not, whether it's they're going to be living at home for the rest of their life. There's talk. I have a friend actually who has 2 children who will probably always live with her, and she is trying to open a respite care facility in this area so that her children will have a place to go, and other children and adults who have disabilities that may still be at home would have a place to go that would be safe for them, and would help them to thrive and to have as successful an environment as they can in the situation or condition that their life or their body or mind is in. So no matter whether you have a child with disabilities or you have, like your dad with his stroke, who was then disabled, or where my dad has been, disabled with the brain stuff that he has, decisions to release and let go of someone like that is never easy. I don't even know if it's easier when you have somebody who has cancer or leukemia, all those different cancers, varieties of them, who are in pain, and they're on morphine and they're suffering. And, we as humans don't want to release that part. We don't want them to be gone, but you also don't want them to suffer as well.
I know it's very difficult. I mean, if I think of my journey with my mom-in-law, she was a medical doctor, and just watching her being reduced to to almost nothingness with her
It's hard.
cancer, was tough. It was very hard because she was she was a phenomenal woman who helped so many people. And
Mm.
to see her in a position where she became helpless and needing help and care was painful. It was
It's so
not a
unfair.
pleasant experience. And same with my dad. My dad, I take after my dad in many respects. I'm a go-getter. I like doing stuff myself. I don't like asking people for help. I
Yes.
like, I get things done. And my dad was like that. And watching my dad go from being a person who likes to do things for himself to being in a situation where he was completely helpless, not able to help himself, being in pain, not being able to cough, not being able to eat, you know, um, was was difficult, um, you know, and I didn't enjoy watching my dad struggle like that. And you know, part of me, I used to feel in that period, and I actually got to the point where I said to him, Dad, it's okay to close your eyes. Um, and he knew that, and he also said he feels he's ready to go.
Mm.
Um, Simply because it was not easy. It was not living. It's not a life when you
No,
cannot
no, it's not. It's not. Yeah, and then you think about, okay, so do you resuscitate somebody at that point? Do you put them on a tube, a feeding tube? And that's an individual decision for each individual case. But, they're ready to go at that point, I think. And I was told by a care nurse the other day, she was discussing my father's situation with me, and she said, you need to go and say, I'm okay. I'm okay. We're all okay here. It's okay. You can go now. And I don't know how easy that is to say that.
Well, I actually, I mean, I was in that situation with my dad,
Yeah.
where I could see life was it was a struggle for him, and I didn't like seeing him in that position, and I know he didn't like being in that position.
Yeah.
And I mean, part of me felt guilty for saying to him, Dad, I think it's okay for you to go now. I said to him, we'll be okay, and you will no longer be in pain. It's okay to go.
Right.
And you have mixed feelings because you kind of feel guilty. you know you don't wish anyone significant in your life to die.
No. Mm-mm.
It's not normal. We want to stay together as families, but it's not easy watching someone suffer, and especially if someone is in a lot of pain and discomfort. um, And so, we kind of got to the point where we were ready to say our goodbyes, and we did. We did get to say goodbye.
Mm.
And sad as it is, and as sad as it feels, I am thankful we got to say our goodbyes. So we got to
Yeah.
say things we needed to say to each other before he went.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because not everyone gets that opportunity.
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
Not everyone. I heard of a horrific bus accident today in here in Cape Town, where a bus driver, it was one of the luxury buses. The street lights were out or something, and he didn't see the roundabout, and he drove straight over the roundabout, and the bus flipped, and a number of people died on the scene. And the bus driver, I think they said he was 34 or something like that, 33 or 34. And he was so overcome by the situation that he hung himself on the scene.
Oh my word. Oh my
I mean,
word.
this just happened now as well. And, and you think of how the kind of anguish this man must have felt at what had happened, and at the same time, the victims that had died. It's it's just unimaginable. You think of those people that were on their way somewhere and they didn't get to say goodbye to their loved ones, and vice versa,
Mm-mm.
you know. So you get those situations, and then you look at yourself and you say, well, I got to say goodbye. I got to make my peace.
Yes.
You know, so there's so many different situations and nuances to death and dying, and every situation is different and everyone deals with it differently. But I think for me, the big lesson is that however you deal with it is okay, and that you should never beat yourself up about the choices you've made, or don't allow someone else to beat you up about the decisions you made for your loved ones,
Right.
because only you know what is best for you, and that's okay, and you need to be okay with that.
Right. Absolutely. It's true. Yeah. I know.
Anyway, my friend, I am really sorry that you are going through this tough time as well,
Thanks.
and I wish lots of love for your friend. You know, it's going to be a difficult few weeks ahead. Plus, you've got your dad as well.
Yeah.
Um, you know, life isn't easy, but it's at times like these when we value friends that we can talk
Absolutely.
to.
'Cause yes, because I will have to lean on mine in order to make this happen. I'll have to lean on help. And I am used to doing things myself. So, but you have to reach out for help whenever things happen in families and friends, either one. Relatives, friends. So, but hopefully we'll get Natalie back on and see her shining face on here and let her be able to talk to people, and we'll get to ask her lots of questions, and we hope to see her soon.
Absolutely. We'll make another plan and we will make an announcement when we can get Natalie back in. So thank you everyone for watching. Thank you, Gospel, for staying. It's been amazing that you joined us. And to anyone who is watching the show today, watching it on the replay, thank you for joining us. And whatever circumstances you're going through, because everyone goes through trials at different periods of their lives, we wish you lots of love and lots of strength to deal with whatever it is that you currently um, are dealing with. So from me, Jetty, it's goodbye for now, and we'll see you back next week again.
Yes, and goodbye from Mary. We'll see you later.
Bye, everyone.